Yonge and Eg is full of great service providers, and my chat today with David Winnell of Foster & Associates is a perfect example of that. I'm Jamie Harnish, Toronto Real Estate Navigator with Bosley Real Estate, and this is another episode of YYE, your Yonge and Eglinton. David, welcome to YYE. Thank you for your time. You are not necessarily brick and mortar like a lot of our guests, but you're a service provider that lives at Yonge and Eglinton. Yep. So I wanted to have you on the show. Why don't we start off by having you tell us about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is David Winnell. I'm an investment advisor with Foster & Associates. I'm a lifelong Midtown resident and 5 years now at Yonge and Eglinton. So who I am, I'm a proud uncle, I'm a professional, I'm an athlete, and ask me about any of those if you'd like.
Why, you mentioned you're an investment advisor. Why should someone work with an investment advisor?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, especially now with the majority of professionals working at least partially or full-time from home. They just don't have the time to dedicate to researching investment ideas, monitoring and rebalancing a portfolio. But on top of that, there's the benefit of having a second opinion, somebody keeping your emotions in check, because with the volatility inherent in investing, people tend to either overreact, underreact, and there's a lot of bias involved. So we sort of help keep the emotional decision making out of the equation and keep it focused on sort of a longer term, goals focused perspective.
Okay, now that makes sense. I'm going to use a friend of mine as an example. I'm not going to name any names, but I have a friend who, I was talking to him about investments, and I asked him who he was working with. And he said, I'm at the bank. And I said, well, why did you go there? Just kind of curious about the motivation. He said, I can walk there, and that's where I've got my checking account. So what would you say to somebody like that? Like, why look at possibly working with somebody with your services versus someone at a bank?
Well, that's not uncommon. I mean, the banks, they're all household names. They're everywhere, whether it's their actual locations or charity events or advertisements on TV or what have you. So I would say to your friend, there's no downside to having a second opinion. As an independent firm, we have access to the entire universe of investable products and strategies, as opposed to having any in-house branded products that may or may not be exclusively offered to your friend. And the downsides of having a conversation are really 20 minutes of his time, his or her time. And it's either everything looks great or here are some areas for improvement.
David, you mentioned having the entire universe of available products to you. What are private and alternative products, and why are they a focus of yours?
So really they're anything outside of traditional stocks and bonds and mutual funds. There's a whole realm of alternative strategies and funds, anything from commodities or foreign exchange to private lending funds, private real estate funds. The biggest benefit is their low correlation to the public markets. So it provides investors with stability, income, which is especially important right now with interest rates as low as they are for the foreseeable future.
David, you're clearly a knowledgeable person in your field, and you're very well spoken as well. I know you've got 2 podcasts. People who are watching might be interested in knowing more about them. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, sure. So the first podcast we started is discussions with managers in the private and alternative space, and it's to educate our listeners and kind of dispel some of the myths around the alternative asset class, whether it's they're overly complex products and strategies, or they're mostly limited to ultra high net worth investors, neither of which are true most of the time. And the second podcast we started is discussions with small business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals, just about their experience in the pandemic and how they've adjusted, how they've found opportunities, what they see being permanent changes, and what they see for even the next few months, 6 months, next year, where they see opportunities.
David, those podcasts sound really interesting. What are they called?
So the podcast with alternative managers is called Invest the Money, and it's more investment focused. And the discussions with professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners is called Take the Money.
Okay.
And you can find it on all the major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts.
Easy enough to remember. Invest the money, take the money.
Yeah.
Very good. David, for people who are watching and have liked what they heard and maybe want to reach out, how would you prefer that they get in touch with you?
They can call me anytime, they can email me, or they can reach out to you. You know how to find me.
Okay, and your email address?
It's dwinnell, Winnell, @fostergroup.ca.
Perfect. Okay, David, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Jamie.
Okay.